No cap. He on that juice, man.
He's back to going being on Instagram Live. Then Clubhouse must be fading off. Something. These dudes are sidekicks in their own show.
Welcome, 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 everyone, to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture from two very different perspectives. I'm your host, Theo, and on the line, I have the man himself, Mr. Benja. What is going on?
What's going on? It's crazy out in these streets, man. The pandemic is over, or so, or so some people seem to be acting like.
Dude, the pandemic is over, and I'll get into that in a second. But before we get started in our weekly check-in, today I think we're going to talk about a few things. Definitely the Clubhouse check-in to see what's going on with the hot new startup in the audio space. Then we'll talk about DMX, his legacy, and it's kind of interesting. I think we both share some connections to DMX because we were both roommates at that time. So I think we have some interesting stories we can share there. And then finally, we'll do a last check-in, or another check-in with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 4. No cap, he on that juice, man. So let's get
Oh,
to
we've
it,
been
man.
pretty
How was
good,
your
man.
week?
I'm switching over into what I call robot mode, and that's just when I get into the mode of cranking out content, cranking out, the posts, the tweets, the just keeping the machine moving, man. And it's different from being in the creative mode where you're just walking around with your head in the clouds, and whatever. But robot mode.
Robot mode is in effect, brother. I love it. I love it. Man, I got a lot of good stories this week, man. So interesting. So I posted it happened a couple weeks ago, but we'll finalize this week. So I posted a story on Facebook about my dad and I getting our vaccinations done. So for COVID-19. And so, for those that don't know, Black community, especially older Black folks, is difficult to get them sometimes to want to get vaccinated. So I told a very interesting story about why I basically had to bribe my dad to get the vaccination. And so the post did pretty good, man. I heard from folks I haven't heard from in like 20 years on comments and things like that. I got like, over almost 100 likes and, you know, 30 comments. It was like, wow. I was like, because I really don't post that much on Facebook like I used to, and I'm getting better at it. But I thought that was kind of interesting. So, I mean, and I think it worked. This is show versus business, right? So we try to analyze everything. I think it worked because it was a story, So I told, like this is the beginning, middle, and end. But how my dad didn't want to
He
do
said, he
it,
said, "No,
basically.
I'm good, right?"
Yeah, pretty much. And then I said, "Well, I'm going to get it." Still said, "No, I'm good." So I had to go into my pocket and find some tickets for his favorite basketball team, and he,
Came out
he was ready to go. So
came out of pocket for the
bribery
pops,
works,
man. I
man.
love it.
I love it, man. So, and that is a good story too, right? I mean, I think it was trending along the lines of what everyone's talking about, and it also, I think there was a Saturday Night Live sketch. I don't know if I sent it to you, but that did something very similar where they had Daniel Kaluuya. He was on the guest, and it basically he was played a doctor trying to convince his family to take the vaccination, and they had all these excuses. And so, for those that don't know, the Black community, deservedly so is not as trustful of the medical community when it comes to vaccinations and shots and things of that nature. So, obviously there could be some hesitation, but so I'm glad he finally got it. So I'm feeling a little bit relieved. So
Yeah, it's
that was
good,
a good
man. That,
story.
that, that was cool, and it's weirdly appropriate with Falcon and Winter Soldier right now. So some of that stuff coming up their storyline, and it's happening in real life too.
Yeah, definitely, man. I love it. So, other than that, man, yeah. So let's get into the stories, man. What's going on? So, Clubhouse. When's the last time you've been on the app, man?
So
Have
I
you
used
have
to
you been
jump
on it
on to
recently?
check out what Grant Cardone was talking about because he'd usually be on there. It was like 3 weeks straight. You'd see nothing but Grant Cardone. And I picked up my phone and I was thinking about going to Clubhouse, and Instagram said Grant Cardone is live, and he was on Instagram Live doing his thing that he usually does on Clubhouse. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, he's back to going being on Instagram Live, then Clubhouse must be fading off. Something.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the same take, man. I mean, so I did do some traveling this week, and on my mini travels, I ran into this guy. I don't know how true this is or not, but he had the assets over liability shirt. So
Mm.
I started talking to him. I was like, "So, do you know the guys from, Earn Your Leisure?" He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be on the podcast tomorrow. That's why I'm flying to New York." I said, "Oh, okay." And so, we exchange information and all that. So we'll see how true that is. But make a long story short, we start, talking about Clubhouse and what's going on there. And, like he talked about, it seems like he's more of a, out there than maybe, I am. He mentioned that he, used to be in there a lot, but the challenge with Clubhouse is that, once you're on there, it's like you kind of have to be on there. It's like, you have people on there for like hours. And I think, as things are starting to open up, I mean, from a business challenge standpoint, I just don't see how Clubhouse is going to sustain that same momentum when people are like, I really don't want to be on this Clubhouse for 2 hours, right? I got meetings, I got things to do, people to see. And so he mentioned to me, this gentleman, he said that he said he felt that Clubhouse is down by 70%, when it comes to interaction with people. So it looks like, this experiment on live audio during the pandemic made perfect sense when we didn't have things to do. But now that people are traveling, doing things, there's other things, opportunities to do other things and meet with folks. Clubhouse, I don't know how long it's going to sustain. So it's going to be interesting.
I think it's a bit, and this is coming from a design point of view. It seems to be a bit too freeform. Where I mean, you have your scheduled events, and people are on there like, "Hey, I'm going to be talking about this at 3 o'clock Saturday or whatever." But I mean, you might as well, you know, send out an evite if you're going to be doing stuff like that. Um, I think I think what's going on is that the design just isn't captivating people in the way that they operate right now. Like if I just wanted to talk about the new sports, going on, new event happened or somebody got injured or whatever, I kind of expect in my head to be able to open up Clubhouse and walk into this virtual room and like, hey man, heard such and such got injured. Oh yeah, man, blah blah blah. And when I go in these Clubhouse rooms, it doesn't feel like that. It's like, hold on, sit back over in the corner, please. I'm such and such moderator, and here's my friend who's an NFT billionaire, and here's such and such marketing guru. What they're going to tell you is, please follow us on Instagram. I don't know. It gets kind of weird, and it's not structured and friendly enough for me. It seems to be unstructured in one way and too structured in others. I haven't done like a definitive design doc on it, but it doesn't feel
Hmm.
right, and I'm looking for the next set of updates to see what they do.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, our guys over there at hustle.com, Sam and Sean, they kind of mentioned it. I think Sean put out something, and I think I shared it with you about this is how Clubhouse is going to fail, right? He kind of broke it down, like how they're going to look at things and how they're going to evaluate it. And he did say there was a bifurcation between what you're saying, where there were like two type of users, right? You have the users who go in there who want to kind of have like that. That conference environment where you're listening to panel discussion and you may ask a few questions and it's very formalized, right? And that's great, especially if you have like high profile hosts and guests like Elon Musk or Bill Gates, right? Which makes sense. But then you have those other ones who just like be on it just to chill, right? Let's just talk about the latest episode of Invincible or some TV show, and they're just sitting there just shooting the shit like we did in college, right? And so it's like you got two type of audiences, right? And they sometimes don't mesh. And that you're right, from a design standpoint or from a product design standpoint, they want different things, right? The ones who they want the conference experience, they want like structure and time sets and things in that certain time. And then you have the folks that just want to chill and talk shit. I mean, remember when we had our little talk shit sessions in college, man? We would be up to like 3 in the morning, man, talking about why Godfather One was like the greatest movie ever, right?
We were talking about that. You were talking about that.
Of course, after Star Wars, but it was just like I could remember just being up like literally like 4 or 5 in the morning, right? Just
Oh,
talking
that's
to
crazy.
shit, man. And it's like, can you design for those type of audiences? They're two different things, right? Some folks want better, experiences, and some don't. They just want as many people on there as possible that relate to what they talk to.
I mean, it's amazing though, and I didn't understand why Twitter jumped on this um their version of it, Twitter Spaces. I didn't understand why they jumped on that vibe so quickly. But now that I think about it, or now that I've had time to think about it, it's it's that idea of, man, here's something that happened. I wish I A had someone to talk to about this, or B had some place to go where I can see what other people are saying about this. And Twitter offers both of those just in a text format. So I don't think Clubhouse is wrong. They just need to fix their mode of entry, the way they moderate, the way they organize. I think they've got the structure there, but as I said, it's a design thing that's kind of messing with me. I'm sure somebody will do it.
I mean, if they're going that route, like Twitter is going, right, to your point, then the search functionality has to be a lot better. I mean, there may be some interesting conversations. I mean, like I'm trying to scroll through like the main hall, right, section of Clubhouse, and you're like scrolling for like ever. It's the infinite scroll, and it's like I want to hear who's talking about Paul Pierce, right, and how he got fired from ESPN. I'm looking for. I don't know how to find that right on Clubhouse. I'm sure someone's talking about it, but there was no easy search functionality on that, and so that's the challenge if they're going that route.
Yeah, it's and I'm just looking at the app. Their their search functionality allows you to find people and like dedicated rooms, um, clubs they call them. But you can't make a club about a single event. So
Hmm.
to your point, yeah, that's where they're missing out. They need to call
Yeah.
some Google search engineers and hook that up.
Well, I'm sure, but then, like I said, that's a engineering effort that takes away from this, nice curate, more fancy way of doing kind of an events or conference, right, or audio conference, if you will. And so, I don't know, they got a challenge, and I think Sean from Hustle.com, he really kind of nailed it because I think he was in this space, and so that's why he kind of knew the problems they were faced with because they got to figure out what path they want to go down. And to your point, you just brought up a good point. Twitter is doing spaces. I think Spotify is trying to create their own. I heard Facebook is trying to create something. So it's kind of like here come the competitors, right? And so that eats out away from your audience over time because people are like, well, I already have a following on Instagram, and so it's Facebook's going to create something like Clubhouse. Why I got to go to Clubhouse, right? I don't want to take my audience. So it's going to be interesting, man. It's this is business 101. I love it, man. Just trying to figure out how do you navigate, right? These different scenarios when it comes to building a business.
Yeah, exactly. I'm about to update Clubhouse and see if it gets any better.
Okay.
Here we
Yeah, maybe
go.
we'll check in again. We'll see where it's going. But yeah, we saw some other options we may be trying out that's a little bit shorter form, that more recorded. We're gonna try some different type of audio versions. But somebody just made a good point. I heard this on I think Twitter or something like that. But it's like when the internet first came out, we had images, words, right? So that makes sense that we had a lot of experimentation there. And then we started to get into audio with podcasts and stuff, but it was so short because the bandwidth increased so fast that we got video right after that, right? And so it's like there wasn't a lot of experimentation in audio.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like now people are going back to audio. It's like, what else can we do with audio now, right? Since video is what it is. And I think also, let's be honest, I think what also help audio is the fact that we now have better, easy to use, headless, cordless type earpieces like these iPods, and where you can listen on the go, and so that you're not beholden to like a wired type listening experience. Because I know people who keep these in all day, right? Because they're on phone calls and then they're just listening to podcasts in between phone calls. That's me. That's what I
yeah,
do. And so it's kind of like and then they're going to have these translation features, right, where you can
yeah.
speak Spanish with people. So I think that's kind of where it's going. And so having an audio experience, you need to have these experimentations because we need to have this always on kind of audio experience wherever we go now. And I think that's where it's going.
Have you I don't know about your first wireless experience, but when I first got my first set of wireless headphones for my computer, I paused my computer like I was playing a YouTube video. I paused it and put my wireless headphones down. It got up and then I was like, wait a minute, they're wireless. And went back and put it was just like this little mental shift. And I put my headphones back on and pressed play on the YouTube video and let it keep going. and I just walked all around the house, and I was like, "This shit is great. I am free."
Yeah, I still do that. I mean, I literally did that before this podcast. I don't know if you saw it. I put down my, my earpods and just walked around. Then I said, "Oh, I don't want to disconnect from the Bluetooth, right?" So anyway, it's gonna
Yeah.
be interesting, man. Audio is the future, so and it makes sense too, but because people want to do different things while they're listening, so it's gonna be interesting. So moving on, man. Speaking of interesting, so I think we had a unfortunate passing of a icon in hip hop community, DMX, Dark Man X, or Earl Simmons. He died unfortunately from they want to say drug overdose, but there was some underlying conditions as well at the age of 50. This is coming. I mean, we heard about this. He was I think in the hospital last like a week or so, a couple of weeks here, and unfortunately he did not make it. So we got a lot to talk about. I mean, DMX came around when both you and I were literally roommates in college. 98 was when he exploded on the scene, and so I think we got a lot of memories. So I don't know how we want to take this. So maybe we'll talk about like maybe DMX says that what he brought to hip hop, and then maybe look at the context of what was going on in hip hop at the time. And I think there's going to be some interesting things that we'll find out. But what is your first things when you think about DMX?
Uh, so, so with me, DMX, he's one of those characters where everybody who was familiar with that era knows about him, but people who are right outside or just adjacent to it, they may have totally missed him. And I get it. You know what I mean? It's not like you may say, "What's my name?" and you play it, and they're like, "Oh, oh yeah, I remember hearing that song once or twice," but they don't understand, how much of an effect this guy had. So I always like to contextualize it in the sense of there were there was the shiny suit man, which is P Diddy, and the whole glossy music video era that was going on at the time, and DMX was that gritty street disrupting voice. I mean, literally a disrupting voice because when you heard him, it was like, "Arr," and the barking and all this. Like, who the hell is that? So yeah, that's what he meant for me. Just that whole disruption of the shiny suit era. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. How did you come across him?
It's just like everyone else. I mean, he just exploded on the scene, man. In '98, it was just like, who is this dude? I mean, I think there was this, just like back then, everyone like popped up on these little remixes, or they were kind of guest rappers on like songs. And I think he came on that 4-3-2-1 um, hot mix, and he tore it up. I mean, that was LL Cool J was on that. There was a bunch of other folks on that. Method Man, I think, was on that one too, and it was just like DMX just like, just like you just like, wow, who is that, man? And then obviously he released that first Rough Riders anthem, basically,
Mhm.
Get Me Dog, and just like, whoa, like, yeah, this is hype.
If
And
you
so
if you were in a club that played that early on, you might have gotten elbowed in the jaw just because the music came on.
he set the direction, because then it started getting a little bit more grimier after that, right? You had more folks coming out a little bit more grimy after that. But you're right. I mean, I kind of wrote it down like from a culture standpoint, like the impact he had culturally. Like you're right, it was kind of like a pivot back toward the street life in rapping. Because you're right, Puffy, even though he's from New York, he kind of made, for lack of a better term, a little bit softer, right? A little bit more marketable. And, with the shiny suit era, right? And you had Mace and those guys coming out. And the songs were hot, but they were, a little bit more about, a little bit easier to kind of go down. DMX, pushed hard on that. And he came hard out the gate. And everybody's like, dude, this is what we're missing.
Well,
And so that was huge.
yeah, and that was from the MTV era, and
Mhm.
so what you had is you had your two major video outlets. 'Cause I totally didn't catch DMX from the music in the streets, like the CDs or passing around mixtapes. I totally didn't catch him that way. I caught him on the video circuit, and you'd have BET. They play music videos all day, and then towards the night they would start to play a little more of their alternative and their grimy stuff. And then MTV was always playing the really lighthearted, glossy stuff. And so the way it was seen is if you wanted to get on MTV, you went light and glossy. That's how we said Puffy did. But I was on, man, and I caught I mean, you're talking about like the Locks, Styles P and all those guys, uh, and DMX, and they started to pop up every once in a bit on BET, and people from New York were like, yo, this is it right here. This is that New York shit. This is the hotness. Trust us. And you're kind of looking at it like, I mean, the video quality was terrible. You just had like five guys in all black t-shirts of different sizes with, the R on the chest and everything. And you're interviewing this bunch of dudes and you're like, who are these people? And it's like, they're interesting. Okay, but you just got like a bunch of guys in the garage getting interviewed. Shoo. As you said, man, it blew up fast and furious.
Dude, man. I went down the rabbit hole a little bit. So, basically, he's the only rapper to have his first three albums debuted at number one. So, his first one is "Dark and Hell Is Hot" was May 12th, 1998. That had 251,000 CDs sold that first week. But then, literally 6 months later, he dropped "Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood" on December 22nd that same year. That was 270,000 sold. And so it's like that goes to show you basically was pretty much platinum the first week. And
Yeah.
then I think and there was X that was like a whole nother year later in 99, and that was about 698,000, almost 700,000 in the first week. So like I said, I mean, he was everywhere in those 2 years, but really 98, and then you're right, he just exploded. And just think about the other stuff he did. I mean, so that's where Swiss Beats came from. I did some research, and so now Swiss Beats is big time with, verses, and and then not only that, but I found out that Swiss Beats helped Jay-Z with his sound
Hmm.
for Hard Knock Life Volume 3. And that blew up, right? And so Swiss Beats, that whole sound, that Rough Riders sound, that gritty sound, everybody started biting off of that, and that changed, hip hop culture. And then finally Eve. I mean, Eve came out of that group, right? And she,
Right, right.
became one of the first, female big time female rappers. Now she's known for other things like being married to a billionaire. But I think that's what happens. All these female artists just marry billionaires, right? So she came out of that group and had a great career. So I mean, DMX just really made his impact felt, in the culture.
Totally, man. In fact, to put a little pillar on this, whenever you start going back and looking at all these movements and these eras, you can always trace it back to certain people. And like, as we said, DMX, a lot, everything that Swiss Beats put out, DMX could ride on basically with his lyrics and with his flows. So he would make songs that made Swiss Beats legitimate and not legitimate. I mean, he's a good guy, but um, it was just like, okay, I understand how Swiss beats could work. And all of a sudden, it started going off into Jay Z, as you said, and then um, other people would start to get all these Swiss Beats productions. Same thing with you know Diddy had Mace. Where if you find a person that can channel your sound and channel the certain vibe, once you carve out that lane, then everybody has to kind of come off of that. So I don't think people realize how much stuff came off of what DMX was pushing. As I said, with the Rough Riders, the Locks. He changed up the video scene a lot. You remember with the all the motorcycles rolling around and you know, grimy music videos. It's like, what the hell is this? And he got a lot of alternative. People listen to like alternative rock and didn't imagine this. They didn't listen to rap because it was too clean cut and
Hmm.
too market friendly. And for those of us who were in rap, we're like, what are you talking about? It's too market friendly. And we don't realize that it took somebody like DMX to break out of the underground. And it's like, oh, okay, now they see what the grimy part of rap can look like. So props to this man, and you know, uh, shame that he had to pass when he did.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so young. And then one of the things I wanted to say too, just I think he was an innovator and a true artist. I mean, he's very transparent about his mental illness and the pain he went through, right, growing up. and the spirituality piece, right? This is before Kanye, before Chance the Rapper, right? I mean, he was basically preaching on some of these songs, and then like the one we had those conversations between him and the devil. I mean, those are deep. I mean, and so I mean, that to me was powerful. It's like, how can you be that raw and rugged and grimy, but then have the spiritual side? It was that juxtaposition that you were just kind of like, dude, I guess you can have both in the artist, right? And I think he kind of set the map for some of the other artists who wanted to bring more spirituality into the music scene, right, in their artistry. So yeah, man, and then I think um he went through some things, some issues, and he kind of talks about that and stuff, and he just never could get back through there. But I mean, definitely he made his impact, man. And if you could have some small impact on the world, positive, impact, I think that's the key, man, in life, man. Like you said, rest in power to DMX, and definitely he'll be missed, man, and definitely reminisced on for many years to come. Real quick though, well, did you have something else you wanted to say about that?
Yeah, yeah. How do we prevent how do we prevent a DMX situation? And what I mean by DMX situation is, somebody who we know is having trouble, is successful, is moving forward and building things, um, but is obviously having some trouble. And it seemed like we don't have structures in place to kind of make sure that, uh, maybe not like be super, successful or whatever, but you just don't fly off the rails.
Mhm.
And that's been a, I don't know if you've been following, but that's been like a big discussion lately. Like, how do we not allow ourselves to go off the rails, basically? Um, a
Yeah.
union, something, I don't know.
I mean, I think there were a lot of folks that were trying to help him. I mean, there've been talk about different comebacks. I mean, he literally just did a versus, didn't he, with him and Snoop. So it's not like he hasn't been in the consciousness and all that in the last year or so. But you're right. I mean, could there have been more to help him? I don't know, man. I mean, because we can't be losing folks, who had a culture impact. I mean, and especially if we all know they're in pain, and so I don't know what that looks like, right? And so I wish I had a good answer. But I don't. And I think it's one of those things that hip hop community has to kind of really look inside and kind of, especially now, because think about it now, like all the artists that we know that we grew up on, they're either actors now or they're like, businessmen. It's kind of weird, right? Because it's like, they're like mainstream. You got Snoop hanging with Martha Stewart, right? So
Yeah,
it's kind of like, these guys are so mainstream now, man. They're like entities of themselves. They're like businesses. It's kind of like they forgot, the pain and everything they went through because, they're basically, multimillionaires. They don't have the problems like, the rest of the folks. And so could they put together some kind of coalition to kind of help, folks in the past, right? So that didn't make it to where they made it to, right? So I don't know, man. And but that's a good point. I wish there was something because it doesn't reflect good on the culture when we lose folks like that, right? And especially when we all knew they were hurting.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, this is not just a strictly 90s hip hop thing either. This goes back to, um, you can start going back through all of the black musicians back through the days. The system wasn't the system of the musical system in America wasn't built with us as part of it, in terms of the construction, the business, the everyday dealings and what happens in the music business. That wasn't something we were involved in the internal sense. We were a part of it in the sense that we created a lot of music. So I guess a lot of the discussion out there is just getting our mindset about, hey, let's really start tightening up these systems that we're eating off of, so that they don't allow people to fall off, like well, as I said, I'm just using the term fall off here because I don't have a better term in my head, but yeah, we keep people better in line. I don't know.
Hmm.
I
So
hope what I'm saying is kind of getting across, but
No, I get it. It's definitely sensitive, and like we both said, rest in power, DMX. Prayers to his family, and like you said, hopefully we can, move, help other folks in these situations. So again, if you listen to this podcast and you're dealing with, addiction issues or other issues, definitely please seek help, because I definitely think people care out there, and as you saw the love that came out for DMX. I mean, for me, his classic "Slippin'." I mean, I had to listen to that, man, and I love that song. I mean, that's probably one of my favorite songs because I mean, it encapsulated DMX, what he was going through. But if anyone listens to that song, man, you've all been there, where you just slipping, you're falling, you can't get up. But then I like the last part of that where he says, "I got to get up so I can tear shit up." And so it's like, when you've been down, man, you can just like, but you still try to find some hope right in there. And to me, that song is always powerful, man. And then, and so if you haven't listened to that song in a minute, go check it out along with his other hits. But to me, that's the song that encapsulates everything about him, in my opinion. And so it really was special to me, growing up at that time. So powerful stuff, man.
Stop Being Greedy was my was the song that just tripped me up inside. Um, I know it's not like the soulful, soft song that a lot of people go to. Like that was like very soulful, man. But yeah, Stop Being Greedy was mine. Just like I was in college trying to figure out all this programming stuff to get into video games. Nobody that I knew how to get into video games, and I was just like, you know, I'm trying to eat off this video game plate too. You know,
Oh man, see, I
it's just
mean, dude, he changed our lives, man. I mean, so it definitely is something that, yeah, it's very powerful. So, real quick, man, just to kind of reminisce, since we're in this reminiscing mode, I went back and looked at all the albums that released in '98, man.
mhm.
Powerful year, man. Powerful year. It was like, obviously we had the DMX, but remember Master P? Master P was running things, man, late '90s, dude. Yeah, Master P, Silk the Shocker, man, dude.
when we
that crew.
when we gonna get Silk the Shocker on the podcast?
Dude, I forgot how hard that crew ran, man. That they were up there too, man, because they literally came out of nowhere too. I mean, it's like '97. I mean, he was around, to your point, a lot of mistakes and stuff, especially in New Orleans. But it wasn't until '97, I think. Then the Ice Cream Man and all that kind of stuff kind of came out, and then he just blew up.
Yeah, man. You know what? And these are like some of the first guys I started respecting on the business side of things. Like, and I really started
Exactly.
looking at what they were doing. I was like, oh, that's what No Limit's doing. That's how they're changing the game up. Oh, that's what Wu Tang is doing. That's so that and yeah, I'm just going through this list now, and you got a Capadonna, Das Effects,
Hmm.
Goody
Hmm.
Mob was doing a different thing down in the South. Um, the Souls
Well,
of
you got Aquemini, from Outkast, right?
Ooh,
So
yeah,
they
yeah.
were starting to blow up, and then you got here, you know, uh, Method Man to Kyle 2000. So Method Man, was still running things, but that goes along with the Wu Tang Clan, right? So it was like, the Wu Tang Clan up in New York, these crews, right? And was really getting stronger in these different areas. I thought that was kind of powerful, and of course, Jay Z.
Devin
Go
the
ahead.
Dude.
Oh man, and then yeah, C Murder was there, and I think he's still in jail, unfortunately. Goody Mob, man, that's the West. Was the South got something to say.
Oh my god. Oh my god, this year was crazy.
I know, man.
Dude,
Look
you
at
got
this, Cypress Hill.
Cypress Hill, Busy Bone. Uh, yo, that's where all my money went. Th- I'm just, I'm just,
Man.
I'm just remembering back, man. Between me and my brother, we got so much music from Vinyl Fever in Tallahassee. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do. This bring you back, doesn't it?
My God. Oh, Keith Murray, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes,
Come on, man. Yeah,
dude.
I gotta close this window. I'll be.
Man, and then of course the classic to me was Lauryn Hill, like her, and unfortunately, her probably her only, she had one and only album, and the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was like a classic, man. So it's like, dude, it's so much on here. So then again, obviously we're a little older, and so obviously we think our year was the greatest, and there's no other music ever in '98. This is the best year ever for music, but we just probably have a little bit closer attachment to it. But I thought it was kind of interesting to go back and like Fat Pat, dude. That
Yeah.
brought me back right there,
I
Fat
mean,
Pat.
objectively though, objectively, you can trace a lot of the roots of hip hop back to this era that we went through. And I don't
Yeah.
mean hip hop as we know it now. I don't mean like, just starting with the musical form, starting it into a business entity, a business structure that works in a certain way with the crews, the labels, the videos, the presentation, the interactions with the fans and the people. All of this was set forth with these that in that era. So objectively, we made shit happen.
So are we the greatest generation? Are we the greatest generation?
Absolutely. Fight me,
I think
fight me
every
in the
generation
comments.
says that.
Fight me
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
comments.
Yeah, I think every generation says that, but it's all good. But I love it, man. Yeah, it was just good to kind of go back real quick and think through that. But you're right. I think that was the impetus of all this whole business minded folks. I mean, Jay-Z, was really kind of coming to his own there, and he's probably the one that really, came out of this the strongest, right? He's billionaire status and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I mean, it's crazy, man, what happened in '98. So speaking of '98, obviously, we had a lot of things going on, but both you and I were roommates around that time, and around that time we, watched a lot, listened to or read a lot of comic books, right? And so, and so that's why stuff like Marvel still resonates with us because we were kind of reading a lot of that stuff at the time, and so this is a good transition to talk a little bit about Falcon and the Winter Soldier in the latest episode 4. So, yeah, good episode, bad episode. I mean, obviously, once again, spoiler alert. We'll probably spoil a few things here and there, but um, kind of want to get your take on it before we kind of deep dive on it, high level. What do you think?
So I liked it, and here's why. Um, it took me a second, and I went back and I didn't play through them entirely, but I went back and started playing some of the older episodes, and it's a I don't want to say a slow burn, but there's a lot more, I'm going to use the word again because I love it, skullduggery and machinations and intrigue going on. So there's more spy thriller stuff in the story that they're kind of pushing around, but not really making very blatant. So if you're just kind of passively watching, you may be missing a lot of the underlying spy story, if you want to call it that, that's going on in Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I think it's pretty cool because you got a lot of players. And in episode 4, I saw a lot of the players, make some more powerful moves on the board, and I was like, oh, okay, here we go. So yeah, that was my quick take on it.
Yeah, I think they're really only got 2 more episodes to go, right? So I, again, I thought it was good. It's compelling, but it's a lot of stuff, put on the plate. So I was, once again, I tell my story. I watch it with my wife and my kids, and so my wife is just watching it. I said, "Do you understand what's going on?" She's like, "Not really," but I'm gonna stay with it. I
Mm,
was like, "Oh
mm,
Lord," so because it's a lot going on. I mean, so and it's like they find a way to kind of create a little cliffhanger at the end, but in my mind, so spoiler alert, at the end of episode 3, they had the Dora Milaje show up. Basically, if you remember at the end of uh, what was it, Wakanda? What was it, Black Panther? Right, he shows up there because he's been chilling in Wakanda. The Bucky has been chilling in Wakanda for a couple years to kind of rehab, right, and get better from the Winter Soldier program. And they basically, I think they rebuilt his arm, right? It looks like they
mhm,
created his own new arm, and so he's definitely beholden to them, and obviously they have some gripes because Zemo, we all remember from Civil War, right? Was it Civil War? Yeah, he
mhm.
killed uh, T'Challa's dad, Chaka, and so T'Chaka, excuse me, and so definitely they got gripes. So anyway, make a long story short, they show up, and so I'm like, okay, this is cool. but are we really gonna go to Wakanda? We're gonna get a little, rest in peace, Chapman Boseman appearance? No. But it's kind of like they just do these little things to just to get you excited. And I was like, dude, I don't know
That
how I feel about that.
that I don't like. Where
Yeah,
you wish the story would stay contained to itself and anything else be flavoring, but then they're like, no, 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 we got the Dora Milaje. It's gonna be awesome. And then when the Dora Milaje show up, it's like, we have the super soldier serum getting used by this other guy. And it's like they keep telling you what's going to happen next. And
exactly.
when you listen to people's conversations on Twitter, it's not so much about what happened there, it's about what they said was going to happen next, which is I think
Mm.
I think it's a recipe for, just slowly eroding and fading away, and just people like, yeah, I thought it was cool, but I just kind of stopped watching it. So I
That's a good point, man. I was thinking the same thing because it's like when you kind of hype people up all the time of what's going to happen or possibilities of this, then when you don't pan out on a TV show now, you're like, why am I watching this? Right? They're just going to show up for 2 seconds and walk away. I mean, kind of like what they did with Rick Boner, right? With the whole Quicksilver reveal, right? It's kind of like
you you beat
everybody
me to the
lost their
joke.
damn mind. Everybody lost their damn mind when he showed up, thinking that because that was the opportunity. Kevin Feige and crew, right, could have done something unique with these TV shows, start introducing, this X-Men universe, right? But it was a big head fake, and it's like, dude, I can't trust him anymore.
Dude, let me tell you something. And here's where this turns into an actual problem, because somebody in the writers' room is like, well, we can't really do anything because the movies are their own, and we can't change anything that's happening in the movies. But then it's like you don't need to sit around and rely on only the movies. And I can tell that's the truth, because um your boy Battlestar, he kind of died unceremoniously. That that whole scene should have been something that's like, yo, people are dying in this universe, and this is the thing that pushed Walker over the edge. It's heavy. But there was nothing really that led me up to caring about, Lamar, and having him. I did think that was a funny name for a, you know, you have all these battle troops: John, Steve, Sam, Lamar. But yeah, it's like you have a character, and I actually thought they would keep him around longer. Um, but they're just
So
like,
do wait a minute. Do you think he's actually dead? I don't think he's dead.
you know what? Um, he might not be dead, and he also might be juiced, or get juiced to
Get
to
juiced.
resurrect him, or if he's in a coma, or
Exactly.
if he's in a coma or whatever. It's like, yeah, man, juice this dude out of a coma. That would be pretty slick. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
I don't think he's dead, but I mean, to your point, yes. I mean, they could have done some more things with this. I don't think Kevin Feige was like, "Hey, we just do this TV universe, right, to kind of flesh out the storytelling." Because to be fair, so we watched, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then the kids got all these questions about the Winter Soldier, so we start watching um, the Winter Soldier, right, Captain America, Winter Soldier. And so now that's when we started introduction of Sam, and we started introduction of Winter Soldier, and then also we went back and watched Infinity. What's it called? Not Infinity War. Is it Infinity War? No, Endgame
Endgame.
and Avengers Endgame, and then that scene, at the end where everybody comes back and they got excited because oh, that's the Falcon, that's the Winter Soldier, oh, that's Wanda. So it's like now there's infinity to these characters because now you know more about them. Before you didn't know that much, and I get
Mhm.
that part. So the
Yeah,
TV
yeah.
shows flesh out the characters more, but it's not going to be compelling week to week if there's nothing, changing in this world, right? We were like, I really, sure. I mean, like Loki. So, are you excited about Loki coming out?
Uh, You know, um, I like the character and I like the idea of what they're doing, but yeah, there's nothing terribly compelling in the world of Loki that they've given me that I feel I need to watch.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's going to see a different segment of the MCU, like every show we have, right? Seeing showing us different aspects. Like, and I'm sure, I don't know, what's these time bandits? I can't remember the name of this this group now. We're going to
Time bandits,
time bandits.
the time variance authority. Yes.
Oh, time variant authority. See, once again, they're going deep cuts now, man. I mean, it's like I would say I'm a pretty good, Marvel guy, but dude, there's some deep cuts, man. Do you remember them in the comic books at all?
No, that was a world of the comics I just kind of left alone.
Exactly. So this is some deep, deep cuts. I mean, I knew about John Walker a little bit. I mean, even though I wasn't a Captain America fan, Sam Wilson, Winter Soldier, but dude, they're going some deep cuts here. But anyway, make a long story short, so it's gonna be interesting. So let's get back to the Falcon. So, one other kind of notes I put here. I mean, Zemo. I mean, is this character working now? And what do you think his ultimate motives are right now?
Um, I don't understand anyone's motives. Um, they're not. I don't think their motives are terribly strong in the show. What's the thing that's pulling us this way and that way? They just seem to be running back and forth, fighting each other, and I don't think that's like what's Zemo's motive? I don't know. I c- I could speculate and I could say, oh yeah, he's doing this because of X, Y, and Z. But dude, I'm sitting down watching the show. I don't know.
I mean, they're really retconning him, right? I mean, he basically was the main villain. He was behind the scenes really, but the impetus of starting Civil War, right? The movie, but basically, he had a sympathetic, backstory because of what happened in Avengers. What happened in the second Avengers movie, right? With his whole, country getting blown up. So I get what they're trying to do with him. I mean, even I don't know if you saw this on YouTube. There's a 1 hour meme of him just dancing in the dance studio. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, yeah,
They took quick cuts of him just dancing and just put it all together for an hour. It's just he's doing that, that awkward clap, offbeat clap,
yeah.
that you see folks doing. And so they really, really making this character. I mean, I don't. Maybe this is test labs because he might get his own show, man, if he keeps this up. Because
Uh,
everybody seemed to.
Yeah, they dig him, man. They dig him. He's cool, fun to watch and stuff like that. But as I said, you're thinking like story development 101. You need to have two people, and even if it's corny, even if it's contrived, to push a story along and drag people along with you. You put something up as a very simple character A wants, needs, desires this. Character B wants, needs, and desires this. And when those wants, needs, and desires of different characters come into conflict, then you have a story. So if one character wants to crush all the super serum, Zemo, and then another character, Pippi Longstocking, what's her name? Uh,
I can't remember. Pippi Longstocking, I love it.
yeah,
But
and she
the
wants to
leader.
she wants to protect the serum. That's a very simple kind of situation. It's like, okay, we have a situation now. One person's fighting to save the serum, one person's fighting to destroy it. And you kind of lay out these pieces, and in a simple fashion, you have it play out. And I think they're being a little messy with that right now. So
Yeah, I agree. It's too many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, you got Zemo, then you got, Falcon, and I mean, really, be honest with you, Falcon and the Winter Soldier are taking a backseat, right? All these character introductions. It's kind of like, their development. It was great the first episode, but then since then, I don't know, their characters are not the same anymore, right? They're kind of totally different. Sam is going back to getting his ass kicked. I mean, so it's kind of like, I mean, dude, what are you here for? I don't
bruh,
know if you deserve it. I don't know if you deserve the shield, dude. You keep getting your ass kicked.
and the other dude lost his arm. I mean,
I
eh,
mean, seriously. They did what they do. They did two little things and and it just fell off
that's
like
what
leprosy.
that's some late night kung fu theater kind of move they did on him. Punch him in the shoulder, the bottom of the chin, and then the forearm, and bah, arm falls off.
Man, he's like, did you know they could do that? No, I didn't know that. Well, dude, I mean, they made your arm, man. Why would they have a failsafe? Come on, man. Think, dude. One
These
on
dudes are
one, man.
these dudes are sidekicks in their own show.
that you do. That's perfect encapsulation of what this. What's the problem with this show and his sidekicks in their own show? Oh my goodness, that is so funny, but it's true. So real quick, so the big reveal in this was John Walker, man. He got
Wait a
that
minute.
juice, dude.
Hold on.
What?
Yeah, okay, John Walker got the juice, but I know I just said that because it kind of came out of nowhere. But when talking about wants, needs, desires, I really don't have a strong Sam wants this, Bucky wants this, and
Exactly.
they're the leaders of the show. Okay, I'm sorry. Carry on with John Walker because that's
Nah, man. Yeah, I don't know what they want. I mean, do they want to do a good job? Does Sam even want to be the Captain America? I mean, Bucky wants him to be Captain America, but I mean, they kind of hinted at in that second episode. I mean, we'll get back to John Walker in a second, but they kind of hinted at in that second episode where, if Captain was wrong about, you know, him, Bucky, then he may. If he was wrong about Sam, then maybe he's wrong about Bucky. I get that part, but it's just so contrived. Just like, dude, it's not a straight line, right? So it's kind of like, we'll see where to go. But I mean, look, I mean, I love the action. Cool. Let's see some fights. That's always good. But anyway, this episode they've been teasing us forever, right? This dude, he's juiced up, man. He on that juice, dude. He got that clear.
oh boy.
I mean, was there ever any doubt? I mean, even if you didn't read the comic books, I mean, you knew he was gonna get that juice, man. He was gonna look for that out.
Yep. Um, it's, I don't think they could. I think the show has a little more about the super soldier serum than they're letting on. Um, because we're seeing this dude get juiced up, and if he's supposed to come in Steve Rogers' shoes, then that's a lot of story to kind of fill out. It can't
Mhm,
just be John Walker. And like you said with Lamar, aka Battlestar, there may be other people who got juiced. If you remember in the episode, they said there were like 20 vials left.
mhm,
Watch the episode. When she pulls out the container, that's not 20. And it's one of those obvious things
mm,
where it's obvious that it's like, well, it's not 18 or 17. It's more like 10. You know what I mean?
mm,
So you're wondering, well, wait a minute, where are the rest of them? Did she pocket some? Did some get taken by another character? There's a question of, how many others there are out there. So I'm waiting on that story to kind of be pushed and given out later. We'll see what happens.
mhm. I mean, I thought he was gonna do it on screen. They kind of inferred that he did it off screen, right? Because he one scene he was looking, he looked at the vial and he just pocketed it slowly in his pocket. Next scene, he was taking the shield and throwing it through concrete walls, and you're like, "Oh, dude." So I guess he must have took it, but it's like they didn't really, it was kind of like they just left it there. Like, okay, he's obviously taking it, but they didn't show him like literally looking around, and then starting to, you know.
Smack his forearm. You, you think that was more acceptable for Disney? They're like, well, we can bloody up the shield and kill some people,
Uh,
but taking drugs,
I know. Good point. we can't show booties or we can't show drugs. But we can show you getting, someone's head almost, beheaded pretty much, off screen with a bloody shield. Yeah, let's do that. So good old Mickey. Always
murder.
looking out for the kids. Always looking out for the kids, man. But I don't know, man. I mean, it was a jump. I mean, that's the problem with when you have 6 episodes, even though they're hour long. I mean, there's a lot of story they're trying to cover. They probably could have cut a lot of this stuff out, right? I mean, you didn't have to introduce. I mean, Sharon Carter, what she's there. I mean, for I think are they trying to infer that she's the power broker? If she's not the power broker, I'm gonna be like, then why is she even in this show? It's like, dude,
Yeah.
it's like she just there to introduce what Madripoor and that was it, and then disappear. I mean, come on. So it's kind of like they got like too many storylines. So the through line to get John from just his regular kid that just got picked out of obscurity to become Captain America to now being like murking folks in broad daylight for broken shield. And isn't that shield animanium? So how did it break so quick?
Wait, it broke? Wait, hold on.
Did it break? Or maybe you're wrong. Maybe I'm thinking. I gotta look at it again. You might be right. I watched Endgame, so that's when it broke. You're right.
Yeah.
So it was just bloody. because
Yeah,
he basically it's inferred that he cut that dude's head off in front of 50 people with their iPhones out. So,
yeah,
dude, it's just and I forgot. So the Winter Soldier did get the juice too, right? During this program.
yeah. He was that that offshoot program. Remember after the whole thing with Steve Rogers and the lab blowing up and him having to chase down that way back in the Captain America, the first Avenger story. He had to
Gotcha.
chase down that other guy, and the lab blew up, and like who sabotaged the lab, where'd the results go, and there was all that business. So yeah, the Winter Soldier came out of one of those variant programs.
That's right, because I always forget because he just got the cool arm, and then but you're right, he's jumping through the roof and jumping like Spider-Man, up 3 flights of stairs.
This this fool jumped out of plane, and just tried to grab the trees.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. But that's actually from so we watched Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and Steve Rogers did that, right? He jumped straight out of the plane without a parachute, landed in the water, and then he went on the boat and start, basically beating up
Hmm.
everybody. So that was pretty good. So yeah, so it's like I said, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Falcon and the Winter Soldier are sidekicks in their own show. It's like, dude, that's perfectly what it comes what the problem is with this show sometimes. I think it's perfectly functional and it's good and it really, broadens the mythology of Captain America. But let's be honest, we're probably not going to see, Isaiah Bradley anytime soon. We're not going to see the Dora Milaje anytime soon. Wakanda anytime soon. I'll be damned if John Walker, he just maybe goes to jail and he breaks out, but we probably won't see him until the next movie. So it's kind of like, they just put all these little seeds everywhere, but it's just like, it's just gonna be so unfulfilling. You'll be like, okay, and then and then Bucky and Sam are gonna hug it out.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man. So I think we're gonna wrap it up, man. Is there anything you're excited about next week?
When is Bad Batch coming out? That's June, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's
Star
coming up
Wars.
soon. April, May,
Yes.
something like that.
Star Wars. Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah, so we right when you get tired of a little too much Marvel, they're like, Star Wars, sucker.
Yeah, yeah, they know what they're doing, man. I think you put that on the IG, man, the calendar, man. The Disney boy, they know what they're doing, man. They're trying to wrap us in, man. They're trying
Yeah.
to wrap us in lifetime.
Oh, and real quick, Amazon, um, they didn't officially announce it, but they moved their Invincible drops to Thursday nights. So
Hmm.
instead of like Friday at midnight, everybody jumping on to not watch Invincible, Amazon's like, you know what? Uh, we're not gonna say anything, but if you log on a couple hours before midnight, you can go ahead and watch Invincible.
But they kind of always did that secretly. Even the boys, I could remember dropping them a day early if you caught it just right. So yeah, Amazon's a little bit funny. They just got to decide what kind of streamer they are. I don't think they care. It's like a lost leader for them. They're not. This is not their business, right? They're just like, if Invincible, the boys can sell more soap, then we're good. So it's kind of like they're trying to figure that out. You know. But speaking of which, real quick, I know we're about to head out, but Invincible, liking it?
I'm digging it. It's intriguing enough to keep watching. It's not like the characters are extremely compelling. Like I will say for the MCU, these characters as characters and people, it's like I'm kind of interested in them. I'm not as interested in this kid, but I like the way the story is being told. I think it's an interesting universe. And the obvious question is that's hanging over the entire show is what's this dad going to do? So it's fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I actually once again went ahead and started reading the whole series. It's kind of cool reading a comic book series that's already been out, like all 147 issues, and it's pretty interesting, man. That Robert Kirkman, he goes some interesting places, man. This dude is out there, man. Some of the stuff he comes up with. Because I think what they're trying to do is make Invincible like, how we see Superman, Spider-Man, Batman. They kind of stay static, right? They don't grow older, they don't change. Even their
Mm,
villains may come back with a new MO or something like that, but they don't really change. He really is about change. So the villains change, the Invincible changes, he becomes this kind of guy, then he's this kind of guy. He changes the costumes. He has a girlfriend. She's skinny, then she's fat, then she's skinny again. So he's constantly like showing like life evolve, and so I think that's why it's kind of it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the cartoon, because I think that's the compelling part about it, where you're actually seeing this guy go from like a kid, beginning of his superhero career, to being like a Superman character at the end, right? And what what happens throughout that and the sacrifices he's makes. So I think that's kind of interesting. So I'm on issue 112 now, so I got about another 30 to go. But very interesting show. Is They got a lot of different things going on in there.
Yeah, I really like that lion face dude,
Who's
the
that?
that showed up in the last episode of Invincible. Um,
Dude.
he was a lion with a mace, and he just like
Uh-huh.
started wrecking shop and was like, "Man, y'all aren't even worth fighting." And I love
Yes,
that, man.
man. Beast, man, dude. Who? Just curious, man. Who are your favorite characters so far? Because I can tell you right now that is a fan favorite, and he will be showing up again. That's funny. You didn't know any of that, right? You didn't read the Invincible comics, did you?
Mm-mm. No, I didn't.
So that's funny. You just saw that character. You say that's a cool ass character, and guess what? You are right, and he will be coming back.
No, this is what they do in writing rooms. The writers and the artists, they get together, and we did this for Red Dead Redemption. We put all the characters on the board, and we went through and said, "Hey, this guy has a little more flair. Well, he seems more like a," and you would just start moving people around the board, and you can't always tell why a character's better and why he's weaker or why he looks more shady or whatever. But we just start moving people around the board and we say, "Hey, give him a few more muscles, and we'll do this. We'll just make him the supervillain." And yeah, after field testing hundreds of times before anybody sees it, that's how the characters end up coming out. And yeah, I don't know how it happens all the time, but like when I see that guy, I'm like, that guy's cool.
Man, and guess who's voiced by?
Who is that?
Michael Dorn.
Really nice.
Star Trek,
I'm about to say,
Lieutenant
you
Worf.
didn't work the Klingon, right? Right.
Yeah, man. So, and it's funny. I mean, I know we were going to end the show, but this is huge, man. This is funny. Like, if you watch the voice cast for this, it's like, dude, everybody you ever known that's ever been in anything, man, is on the
Yes.
voice cast. I'm like, how did that work out? Because I'm just fascinated by like, if you're like an actor that people know, voice work is kind of like, secondary, right? And then you're probably one of the highest paid ones, you do voice casting. But for some reason, they cast. I mean, dude, like for instance, the guy that played Machine Head, right? The little Machine Head in his latest episode. He was Jeffrey Donovan. He's a character actor, but he had his own show on USA called oh man, I just had it in my head and just slipped me. But he's been around for a minute. It's like and then Mahershala Ali, he does Titan in this episode. The guy that took over at the end. Spoiler alert. But Titan, the concrete guy, right? That
Oh,
took
right,
over,
right.
and that's voiced by two-time Academy Award winning actor Mahershala Ali is voicing this character. I'm like, dude, this is a little below your pay grade, right? I mean, it's just like, but they must have connections. I don't know, man. People were thinking like, hey, this is a pandemic. May I get some paychecks? I don't know what, man. But I know with animation, right? They do the voice acting first, right, and then they animate the characters usually. But like anyway, it's kind of interesting to me how these different voice actors come to be right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. That's probably a story in there somewhere.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about it. So maybe we'll bring in talking a little bit about Invincible, since we both kind of dig in the show and kind of see where it goes. So we'll see how it goes. Switch it up a little bit, especially there's going to be a gap after the next 2 weeks after Falcon and Winter Soldier is up. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. So, but other than that, man, I don't really have too much to go, man. I'm excited about the next couple of weeks, man. Always a pleasure hanging with you, Ben, and catching up. So, hey, everyone, once again, like and subscribe where you see us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're going to do some interesting things in the next couple of weeks, so be on the lookout for us on live and other little quick hot takes that you see. But if you have any questions, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you, and we want to be a part of that conversation. So if there's nothing else, everyone, take care of yourself.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture. Please subscribe to this podcast at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Please like and subscribe to our Instagram page, Show vs. Business, to get exclusive behind-the-scenes takes and upcoming episodes. Talk to you next time.
Finish him!